2011 Toyota 1000 Desert Race continues. The final section of the first loop back to the designated service point at race headquarters at Komakwane would take crews through the small town of Gapiri.
At the front of the production vehicle field, Anthony Taylor and Chris Birkin were staring at the world through rose-tinted glasses. They had managed to avoid the sort of dramas that befell them the previous day and were in complete control of proceedings with a substantial cushion over those doing the chasing.
There was no cushion for special vehicle leaders Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen, with the Motorrad Revo crew being hounded by the elegant fuel bat of Collie and Quentin Sulwalt in a cat-and-mouse game between the two teams. At the start of the day, the gap between the cars was 18 seconds, with the pair still locked together. A little way behind the two specials, the Ford Ranger of Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst was now more than 10 minutes behind the lead Toyota and very much hampered by a broken turbo.
The rocky outcrops make for good vantage points from which to watch Johan van Staden and James Rousseau making good progress in the Atlas Copco bat. The Pretoria pair were now more than 10 minutes behind the leaders, but the latest spec bat was sounding healthy. Big crowds at river and road crossings are a given on the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, with Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau again taking a cautious approach in the Verigo bat. They were now 17 minutes behind the leaders, with hopes of a fourth straight win in Botswana starting to fade.
The enthusiasts were wrapped up in the chilly weather, but it was a lot warmer in the cab of the Micron Excel Toyota Hilux, with the father and son combination of Hichu and Jaap de Bruin in a solid third place among the production vehicles. The Toyota pair was still being followed by Terence Marsh and George Smallberger, who were sticking to their steady-as-she-goes policy in the Regent Racing Nissan Navara. Marsh is not the sort of driver to take undue risks, but even the most cautious of crews are liable to pick up a puncture or two on the Toyota Desert Race. Such an occurrence temporarily halted progress for the Regent Racing crew, and before getting underway again, they'd lost a couple of places on the road.
Class P leaders Archie Rutherford and Mike Lawrenson had hardly put a wheel wrong all race, and after a come-from-behind win on the Atlas Copco 400, were staring at a second successive class victory. Veterans Jannie Visser and Yorks LaRue were chasing a second podium finish of the year in the International Toyota Hilux and were looking as solid as ever. Visser and LaRue were still being shadowed by Brett Parker and Andrew van Sale, who also had hardly put a wheel wrong in the Cesarnani Plastics Gymco. Behind the Gymco, the Atlas Copco bat of Richard Fuller and Jeff Minnett was now trailing Rutherford and Lawrenson by a whopping 36 seconds.
After their puncture, Terence Marsh and George Smallberger dropped 4 places on the road. The Regent Racing Nissan Navara was now running ahead of Jimmy Zahos and Stefan Kutsia and their Cobalt Racing Porter. The Porter was sounding good, but Zahos was still battling with a brake problem. The RFS BMW X3 of Christian de Plooy and Henk Janssen van Vieren had also picked up a couple of places, and the Pretoria crew moved ahead of Malcolm Koch and Johan Burger, who lost a few more seconds with a little indecision at a dry riverbed crossing.
Although it had taken a bit of a pounding and was now minus a few body parts, the Koch & Sons Toyota was running just outside the top 5. Koch grew up in the Vryburg area and cut his racing teeth in conditions similar to those found in Botswana, and he and Burger were looking at their best result of the season. The Toyota was now being chased by Thomas Rundle and Johan Moore, who were continuing to sky through the field. The Baden Tyre Services Nissan Navara was now ahead of Herman and Richard Sulwalt, who were having another tough day in Botswana. 2 years ago, they spent a chilly night in the bush, and their misadventures had taken another turn. After being held up in dust, they made an error which saw them stuck on a tree stump. That cost them time, and the Sulwalt Racing SVR crew were once again playing the catch-up game.
Driver Jacques Wheeler and Philip Hurselman were having their first outing together and had made steady progress throughout the morning in the Orange Works bat. They'd not picked up any problems along the way and were still running ahead of the Nissan Navara of Botswana crew Osman Sadiq and Kassim Dada, who had no other ambitions than to make it to the finish line. Cliff Weichert and Johan Smallberger continued to lead Class D in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser, and behind them the factory Castor Toyota of Duncan Foss and Rob Howie had again been compromised by the fuel starvation problem that had plagued their team throughout the event.
Botswana-based Keith Totoy and Lesotho resident Ashley Thorne were among those who had rejoined the race after day 2 problems. The White Star Racing Bat had moved ahead of Jack and Sorrel Oosthuizen, who was still a strong second in Class D, although the Land Rover was now minus a couple of body panels.
Beam me up, Scotty might have been the message to new Class B leaders Keith and Andrew Maganete, who'd regained the advantage when the Raconic saga of Kutsia and Sandra Labascagni was delayed by a puncture. There were day 2 tribulations for Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable, who now faced more of the same on day 3 with the second factory Team 4 Ranger now hors de combat.
I don't know, fatigue, the knuckle has broken off the hub. They've broken it to 2 and sheared all the bolts inside, so even though we didn't have a spare, we have to put a whole new one on now. We can't even get the bolts out the knuckle. So.
Back at the designated service point in Kumakwane, there was a welcome break for battle-weary crews. Drivers and co-drivers were now gearing up for the final 210 kilometers of a race notorious for a sting in the tail.
Had a bit of drop behind Kali this morning. Just took a bit of time to get past because the dust was hanging around, and then Evan. And I think it's allowed Chris to close up the gap a little bit, but all's going strong. So now I just have to bring it home. The pressure's on to keep the concentration.
Very tight and dusty, eh? But it's like always a challenge for man and machine. It's the last 250 kilos home, or 210 kilos home. So it's going okay. We're having a clean run, but our gearbox is heating up a little bit. We bypassed the cooler, so we'll have to wait and see and drive with your head and not with your toe. See that we get to the end. But it's okay. We're happy so far.
It was a good lap. It really suits the car down to the ground, and yeah, it was going really easy. No problems, no punctures until about 30 k's out. We broke a CV in the rear, so just been battling, trying to get it back here. Like I say, the fun's gone. See how long it takes to get it done. We'll try and get it so I can go and salvage some points.
Yeah, yes, I say it's quite tight. It's much tighter than yesterday. So yeah, this is second, third all day. But other than that, it's going very, very well. It's just we lost turbo boost. I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I'm sure we'll fix it.
First section is easy because it's yesterday's nonsense. Then it gets tight. It's closed up. We got punctures too. We maintain our spot, which is a good thing, but everybody's going through the same hassles. We tend to pick up now. We know what's going to offer. Keep it a little bit more cautious in those tights, but we'll bring it back home safe.
Yeah, it's good fun. Second loop's tight. I say it's fun. Very, very tight, but great fun. Great fun.
Yeah, it's fast, some very tight stuff, but having a good time and yeah, enjoying ourselves, eh? Very good.
Yeah, everything's going well. We had a great run. The first loop, we're just battling in the dust. But we caught up to Terence now. We should pass him in the next 10 k's or so. Everything goes to plan. But otherwise, a great loop. It's not so rough as yesterday. So yeah, we're looking forward to the next one.
It was difficult. We didn't have brakes for 80 k's. But the route of today is much nicer than yesterday's. First section was a bit tight, but then it fixed up, and then yeah, so we need to go out on this last lap and then just try and keep our brakes intact.
It was a bit rough, lots of trees, very twisty. Yeah, we misjudged the one and we hit a branch on the top left, but it's going well. It's going well. We can't complain. It's not as bad as they said it's going to be. But yes, we'll see how it goes the last loop.
The route is very nice. It's well marked. We had an awesome run, an awesome dice with Clip Whiteshelf, and then unfortunately we got a flat tire, and we had a few scary moments because our throttle body got stuck in acceleration. So it's a bit scary, but we're enjoying it very much. Thank you.
Ja, ons steringpomp het gebreek en ook ons een CB aan die regterkant, CB joint, so ons het nou net 2 wiel trek en ons het ook nog nie power steering nie, so ons gaan nou maar so aangaan, ons wil probeer klaarmaak.
At ESP, Anthony Taylor and Chris Birkin were still firmly in control of the production vehicle category, with Collie and Quinton Silwalk locked in battle with Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen in the special vehicle category.